Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks. How you doing?
Not too bad.
Cool. So hopefully we'll have a few more people joining us. So we haven't got Java online at the moment, I don't think, but let's kick off and run through the blockers. So we are still waiting. First attempt is nearly ready on the live traces issue. So hopefully that will move along a bit next week. That's the one. And support for dependency proxy is still around that one. Cool, so we get that will be fixed in 13.3. So that's coming along. This is one though at the moment where we're working around on the catch-all shard. So we're going to separate out the queues on catch-all and do as much of that as we can. So that's all in progress at the moment. So this will unblock the next stage of that. And then Jakob's working on the removing NFS, well, removing enough of the NFS dependency on pages for us to progress there. I assume that's moving along nicely. Any update on that from your side, Maren?
Sorry, I'm unable to speak. I'm on the move.
Okay, no problem. So I think that's progressing as expected. So no issues there. And then we've got new hijab. So we've got a new is it definitely a blocker at the moment, the state of art logging job, or it's about to be, right?
Yeah, so for logging, we're not blocked right now. I'm a little bit worried when we start taking production traffic for Git that we're just going to be flooded with crappy logs, and we don't have good filtering mechanisms. So I would say possibly a blocker. I mean, and it sounds like that. Well, I don't know. Jason is speaking for the distribution team, but he seems willing to incorporate this contribution that adds a sidecar that wraps the logs in JSON and then indicates like which log file each log line comes from. That will give us the flexibility to do the filtering we need to do. So I would say it's still a blocker for now, but it's not like, it's definitely not preventing us from getting started with the Git HTTPS and WebSockets stuff in production, but it may prevent us from finishing it.
So it's a blocker.
Yeah, it's a blocker. Sorry, that was a lot of words for just saying it's a blocker. Yes.
Cool. Great. So, Jav, do you want to give us a demo?
Just get longer tonight, the Git HTTPS stuff working in staging, but it's working now. I guess what we can, well, let me just share my screen and we'll just go ahead and see if logging is working. I don't know. I just merged the logging changes, so I'm not even sure if it's working, but we can see. So just a little bit of background, we enabled Git HTTPS in the, well, actually both WebSockets and Git HTTPS in the Kubernetes cluster for pre-prod and staging. So when you do a Git clone or any Git operations on staging using HTTPS, you should be, those workloads are being serviced by the web service pod.
Forgive my ignorance, but how are we handling, I thought our HO proxy layer couldn't do WebSockets yet, or has that been solved? Is that outdated information?
Yeah, I mean, we have this new feature called Action Cable, which we discussed, which hasn't been turned on yet, which uses WebSockets. We have an existing feature, which is the terminal, the interactive terminal, which uses WebSockets, and maybe you've seen that before. You can pull that up if you can actually pull that up on our production cluster if you go to the k8s workloads GitLab.com project on ops.
But so, yeah, okay. I actually thought that we couldn't support WebSockets at all, but I guess that's obviously not the case. So that must be outdated information.
Yeah, no, we definitely do WebSockets. So let me try to work.
I mean, it's how it actually works that is to be actually confirmed, right? We do support it.
It works. It works. Like you can actually use it if you can pull up. I was showing Amy this in our one-on-one. You can pull up a pod. You know, when you click that terminal icon on ops, you can pull up a pod and you can have an interactive terminal.
No, I know that part works, but I'm saying I don't know how it works in staging production, right? Like ops is very much simpler in configuration.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't think anyone has. Well, maybe someone does. Yeah, I don't know. No one is actually. So it's very low traffic. Let's put it that way. It's like very, very low. So I'm looking at the non-prod Elasticsearch cluster, and so far I don't see any Kubernetes. Let me go ahead and refresh the index mappings. Maybe. We change. I feel like this interface like changed a bit since the last time I used it. I need to go to settings. Not that dashboard. Management. No, not that. Okay, well, in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this on the terminal. So we have 3 web service pods in staging right now. The minimum number is 2, and we're just using the defaults. I think it scales up to like 10 or so. We have an issue still for how we're going to like configure this for production. That's going to involve sort of setting some minimum capacity to represent like the number of workers we currently have in production. Also, when we roll this out, we're probably going to just do WebSockets first, and then we'll follow it up with Git HTTPS. And we're also going to use Canary for this as well. I imagine what we'll do is we'll start off with Canary, and then we'll probably just add the GKE load balancer as a single backend in HA proxy so that it gets a small percentage of the production traffic, and then we'll kind of observe it from there, and then we'll shift over all traffic eventually. We can take a look at like the logs here. Oops. So you see that this is a little bit different than Sidekick because there's multiple containers that are running. We have both the web service and the GitLab workhorse. So if we select GitLab workhorse, you can see that, wow, we get a lot of logs. Well, I mean, not that much because it's staging, but this is the workhorse logs, and we're seeing HTTPS GET requests here along with the readiness probes. You can also do, I think it was GitLab web service. No, what was it again? Web service. So you can see that we're doing we're tailing the logs in the pod. That's going to standard out. So we're seeing log lines from multiple log files. This is one of the things that I hope this issue will resolve, is that we'll be able to determine, you know, which log line comes from which log file. We're most interested in the production JSON log. But there's still like unstructured logs in here. We have the auth log. There's just like a lot of stuff to sort out.
Jar, is there an issue in GitLab org GitLab related to cleaning up some of these logs? Because I can already imagine this is going to spike our costs unbelievably. Because if this is staging, then we are not in a good state.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the reason why we have this blocker. I think what we'll do is so what's going to happen is that each of these log lines will be wrapped in JSON. So we'll be able to say like this log line came from the auth.log, and then we can either drop it or send it to a, you know, like, or not drop it, but not send it to Elasticsearch, or send it to a special index. As far as if there's an issue. Yeah.
But that is the infrastructure workaround for a problem in the application.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there is an issue. I'll take an action to find it, to see whether, like,
Please.
I think, yeah, I think possibly doing something like we could add to structure logging, like a field that indicates where the log comes from. That would be the best option, possibly. But yeah.
Find it and ping me on that.
Sure.
I'll work on the infra-dev process there.
Sure. So I'm not sure why logs aren't being, but let's just take a look at Elasticsearch. So if we do k8s pods GitLab wide. So let's just take one of the nodes that the web service is running on, and then we'll look at Elasticsearch here. So oops, muscle memory. So this is the Fluent dpod. That's a daemon set. Yeah, so here it is. So what we should be doing is we have two filters here. One for this workhorse logs, and where is the, here it is. So it's looking for this path for workhorse logs. So what I should be able to do is just see if that exists. It does. So this is the pod logs that it's looking at. So you can see that the logs are here, and then this should be forwarded over to Elasticsearch. I'm not sure why I can't see them yet in Elasticsearch. I'll take a look at that this morning, but I would say like logging should be working.
When was it last working? Do you know? Like in the last
Oh, no, like I literally, like before this meeting, I just merged the Elasticsearch config update.
So I'm cover this in a bit later, but Kubernetes upgrade 1.16 broke our monitoring and possibly our Elasticsearch. So that might be an avenue of investigation.
Okay, yeah, I'll take a look. I'll take a look after this meeting to make sure
have
that
broken Elasticsearch, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's fine. I mean, this is brand new, so I'm sure there's something else, but I'll take a look. Cool, that's it for me. Graham, do you have anything, or let me look at the agenda?
Yeah, if you want to go like a Vault update, it'd be awesome, Graham. If you want to.
Yeah, so I can give a 5-minute Vault update. The short answer is we have a production, quote unquote, a production and a non-production Vault instance both up and running. They're VPC peered. They're in their own special GitLab Google projects in their own isolated zones. They're both peered with their respective networks. So non-production's peered with things like pre and staging. Production is only peered with production. I've done all the CI jobs, all the boilerplate and all the bolting together so that merge requests to start basically using Vault could be added. So my kind of, in terms of the project management side, the things I have left to do before my definition of done for this stage of Vault is I need to hook it up to Prometheus, and I'm about 90% of the way there. I just need to have a quick chat with some people from the monitoring team just to wrap my head around how some of the monitoring stuff works. So I'll get Prometheus running there. I'll run up some monitoring rules, I guess, making sure Vault goes down, we know about it. And then I will do runbooks. So how, if you get an alert about Vault or whatever, what do you do? And then more or less I'm considering the first part of Vault done, and I will do a readiness review, which is purely just the sign off of the architecture of Vault and the setup I have and, how it works and the runbooks and the monitoring. Get consensus from the team that, we're happy with that. There's nothing outstanding. There's nothing else I need to do or from any of those kind of parts. And then anyone within any of the teams who are actually interested in using Vault, from my perspective, can just start using it. I do have I can, show you how to use it in Helm file and stuff. It's dead simple to use with all of our services. CI jobs, Helm file, Chef is still an unknown quantity at this stage, and that kind of work will be parceled off into different epics, like how do we use this with Chef, or how do we use this with Kubernetes. So more or less within the next couple of, once I get the readiness review done, I'm pretty much happy for people to start using it.
What do you think is going to be the first thing we transition? What's your gut tell you?
To see you know, there's a GitLab's configs bucket where we stick some random configuration data for like Cloudflare exporter and some other Kubernetes services we run.
Yeah.
They're not used by Chef. They're just all by themselves. And there's about 10 files we have in there that have like a few lines of code each, and they're only used at CI job time to create those secrets. I think that was a prime candidate for just switching over to, because from the Helm file example, you simply just replace, instead of like that whole GKMS and those really long, awful lines that we have at the moment to grab buckets and decrypt it, you replace it with just like vault : / and the name to the key. And Helm file just knows how to pick it all out as long as your environment is logged into Vault, which CI jobs and our desktops can do.
So the first step would be using Vault for secrets that are specific to Kubernetes but not used for Chef, right?
Correct. That would be, I'm happy to do something different. To me, that's the simplest use case.
Yeah, that seems to make sense.
Just thinking out loud, Graham, before I disconnect. So if we go down the route, so just humor me here. So if we think about maybe putting our staging cluster in there just to, well, test it in this hybrid weird environment, would it work because of the Chef dependency?
Which shared dependency? You mean staging as in like the GitLab.com staging environment?
Yeah, correct.
So
because we pull both from Chef and right,
yeah,
like the configuration is hybrid.
So the problem would be is like we could move a bunch of secrets over into Vault for staging, but then they're out of sync, right? Like you got two places, you kind of got to keep them updated. So
okay, that sucks, because I was hoping we could maybe before we start putting some of this really public facing traffic, right, like the majority of traffic we have, if we could do something with Vault as well, because I'm afraid this is going to be like a big change as well.
Yeah, I think the key is as soon as I kind of, as I said, done that first part and that's ready to go, is we tackle the Chef problem. But if I've looked at the work you did, Jav, with GKMS and the current setup, I think we just create another, we extend that Ruby code, because you wrote it in a pretty good fashion where it's like extensible, right? So it can't be just extend another class there, which basically just calls Vault get key or whatever it is instead of GKMS. Like, I feel like it should be easy to do, but then again, I haven't looked at it.
It's just another backend for the GitLab Secrets cookbook. Right now, it has Chef Vault and GKMS,
Exactly.
so it's like another shim that you could just add. I would say, I don't know if it's worth spending too much time on this, because when we move all of the front end over, the only thing that's left using Chef secrets will be Postgres and Redis and Giddily. Maybe it's worth transitioning that to Vault as well. But I mean, maybe it would be worth just time boxing to see how tricky this will be. I guess like I also don't want to give each. Right now we have the problem where every single node in an environment has the keys to the kingdom for that environment, and I'd like to go about it the right way this time, where we limit access to secrets. It's a bit tricky with Omnibus, because Omnibus is like grouped all together, and there aren't a lot of secrets that can be separated. But like, for example, I think Giddily is a good example. Giddily doesn't need access to the Postgres database, but it still has access to the Postgres secrets. And this is something that I'd like to try to segment if we can.
So I definitely think with the policy setup and the machine role setup, we will probably look at doing. It's absolutely possible. The other thing actually I will mention is there was a ticket floating around, and I'll see if I can find it again, about making the Omnibus, so the GitLab RB file, have native Vault integration. So in the GitLab RB, you would write like Vault : and then you know, if you run a Vault agent on the machine, the Vault agent talks to the Google data server to get the machine role and gets policy and everything. And therefore, we don't solve it in Chef. I'm not sure if that's easy or difficult, and I'm not sure if there's the appetite to do that work.
I'll tell you right now, it ain't gonna be as simple as extending the cookbook. So it's gonna take way more time.
Yeah.
And be more fragile probably as well, because there's too many wrappers with Omnibus as well.
Sure.
Cool. What's the latest for the TLS for console? Is that blocked?
So I'm going to schedule that for my Monday morning, which is like Sunday evening for US and Europe, because that's the lowest point of the week. And I'm extremely nervous. I'm really scared about causing an outage, so I want to try and at least do it at a time that it's not going to impact people. I'm still going to do a little bit more testing and stuff over the next few days. I've just been, I'm on call this week, and plus I'm trying to do the GKE upgrade and get that over the line. And then I'll circle back and focus on that for the rest of the week, and then Monday morning execute that.
Right. Okay, so I guess the point where we might run into problems is the point where we turn on TLS verification, right? I think up until that point, it doesn't matter. The certificates can be completely wrong, and I think console, like without TLS verification set to true, I think things will work. So the tricky part then is like turning that flag on the master console. Yeah.
I'm going to do it very, very slowly.
And
it should be fine. Right. I just know the blast radius from when the outage happened is very big. So I'm just making sure.
Yeah, it's almost tempting, I would say, it would be tempting for me to take out the load balancing, like change that DNS record to just a static list of IPs for the replicas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So just like, just.
And then, because that's our only dependency on console. It's our only dependency on console. It was implemented. We had a static list of IPs up until recently. It's just that it was kind of we use console so it can dynamically change when we have failovers. I guess that's an option if you're feeling super nervous, or at least like maybe we should keep that in our pocket as a way to quickly recover if we need to.
Maybe I'll look into that, and I think definitely as a rollback, I might put it as just the first rollback step to stop the bleeding. If something goes wrong. Look, every test I've done, it has been okay. I've got no real reason to be scared. I just know that you're right. As long as I turn the nodes over very slowly, one at a time, and I'm really making sure every single node is connecting again, is alive, I think we're probably okay. The good news is it should either work or not. It's not like it'll work for 30 seconds and then stop. It should just either work straight away or not.
And have you tested it yet on staging with TLS verification turned on?
No, I need to go back and do that. I've just been swamped. I'm just trying to get this stuff done, and then that's next on my list.
Okay. Yeah, because I think without turning on TLS verification, I think like even if it wasn't correctly configured, it would still work.
That will be the real test. Oh, actually, no, that's not true. I did turn TLS verify on in staging. I did it on every single node manually, but I need to go back and do it properly through roles and stuff. So I have done that. Sorry, I lied.
And how will it work? So when you turn on TLS verification on the server, you do it on not the master console, but the other console servers first, or like. Because as soon as you turn on TLS verification, that's going to restart console, and then clients will try to reinitiate a connection, and it won't work, right?
So apparently, I need to double check this, but I think just a reload will catch it. But yes, there's still some kind of reconnection. So I do it. It wants you to do it on the non-leader first. So I do it on all the non-leaders, then the leader fast, which will essentially initiate a failover. So I will be able to at least determine if all the other nodes can connect. I think that's a good sign. Like before I do the leader, if all the other non-leaders still work, then I think that's okay. And then I can just target it, like roll it out to different nodes.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Like I'm just trying to think of, and I'm sure there's a standard way to do this, but when do you turn on the TLS verification? Do you do that on the followers first, and the leader has TLS verification turned off, and then you fail over to one of the followers, but then clients who have TLS verification turned off, will they be able to connect to the new leader?
Yeah, I believe so. So there's...
Okay. Because there's incoming and
I
outgoing
believe-
verification, so maybe...
Yeah, there's outgoing and incoming, isn't there?
Yeah. I think this is the tricky part we'll need to validate just to make sure that everything...
I legit turned both settings to true in staging all at once and was monitoring it and didn't notice a blip. But you're right. Like if you've got clients with the bad certificate and you turn on verify outgoing, they should have complained. So either they didn't notice it or...
Yeah, what I'm unsure about is whether turning verify on and doing a reload, does that cause a connection to drop and reconnect? I don't think it might not. So if it doesn't, then those old connections will be fine. And then when they restart, when the connection, they'll use TLS. But yeah, I think also be careful, because I think our chef cookbook might do a hard restart on all config changes. I'm not sure if it does a reload.
It just does a reload, actually. So
it does a reload. Okay, so that's good. So maybe this is fine then. You know, it just does. I guess if the reload doesn't force connections to reconnect, then it should be a simple, really, of just turning on TLS verification everywhere and and just forcing a reconnect to or just waiting. Yeah, but we should, I guess, before we close out the change request, we should probably do a hard restart of console just to make sure that. Yeah. Cool. Well, if you need another look at the change request, just ping me. And
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll definitely go back and have a closer look and see what options we have for just better things to do in case of failure, and then I might update it to make sure we're covering what we talked about.
Yeah, cool. All right. Anything else before we end? Amy?
The only other thing I was going to mention is I'm halfway through the 1.16 upgrade in production today. I'll finish it tomorrow. Only thing of note is, one, all of our monitoring broke. Basically, all the dashboards stopped working and everything, because right down in the bottom of the release notes, not even under the please look at this section, just one of the lines down the bottom was they dropped the Prometheus labels that we were using. So container name becomes container, pod name becomes pod. So everything we had just kind of, and the thing is, this has been running in staging for weeks, and the dashboard were broken for weeks in staging, and
no one noticed. These are like the mix-in dashboards, right? Like these are the mix-in dashboards, which are always in like a half state of brokenness regardless. Like I think we're only looking at them. I like to just deprecate those dashboards altogether and just write our own. Like it's not very reliable.
The ones I was looking at was like the registry pod info ones, which I thought were ones we wrote ourselves.
So those I think are very important, and if those are broken, then we need to fix them. Did you already submit an MR to fix? Or?
Yeah, I've already fixed them, put them in RR
Cool.
and fixed them.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm just surprised I didn't notice it sooner. The only other thing to note is there was a pod in the Cube system namespace. So it's basically a GKE pod that they provide us that just sends some events to Stackdriver that was crash looping. And the only thing I could find on it is people complaining to Google about it, and Google saying that it's fixed in a newer version of 1.16 of Kubernetes that came out 3 days ago. So that pod is still crash looping. Once again, it was in staging and crash looping for weeks. It doesn't serve any real purpose for us because we use a different logging structure. But I am going to look at like upgrading and fixing that problem some point in the future. And it's actually, there's a larger discussion I won't sidetrack us all with now, but I think it's probably good. We're at a point where I feel confident we should enable an outage window and node auto upgrade only, not masters, just nodes. We should have that discussion.
Yeah, we discussed it early on, and we weren't really sure, so we kind of went with the safer approach. But maybe you're right. I think auto upgrading the nodes, and when you upgrade a node, does that will actually like bring down the node, right, and bring it back up again?
It does the whole spins up a new one.
Yeah.
Which is seems fairly safe. It's seems to be working fine.
So for Sidekick, it's definitely safe. It's like yeah, I think it should be safe for everything. I'm always a little bit more worried about Git SSH and Git HTTPS because you have these very long-lived connections. Like sometimes these clones take a lot longer than your typical web request.
Well, even Docker, even registry, right? Like if someone's pulling from
registry as well
over a very slow connection, like it could take half an hour to download an image. So
yeah. Okay,
I don't know from a user experience standpoint, how do we reconcile that fact with like people may have long-lived connections versus we will have times when we want pods to go away.
Yeah, right. Well, we just live with it for now, but yeah. I think this is why we don't use preemptible nodes as well in production. Cool, man. All right.
Is there anything we need to do around that stuff then, Graham? Like, should we just check things are still working, or is there any like work we need to schedule?
In terms of the Kubernetes upgrade?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pretty confident besides the niggly bits I found, everything else should be fine. Like we've got pretty good monitoring coverage. We're getting no, user alerts and no like customer issues. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Okay.
I've already fixed the monitoring, so the monitoring's fixed. As I said, there's this other pod problem, but that's not an issue that's major in any way. And in fact, it didn't look like Google dragged their feet on it. So I'm not really too worried about it. So I'm happy tomorrow to just call it done.
Cool.
Are the Kubernetes mixin dashboards, which is like the grab bag of all the miscellaneous stuff, those are all broken then as well, or most of them are?
I haven't had a close look.
I use a couple of them sometimes, like when I'm looking at nodes, for example. Let's take a look.
I searched for mixin and couldn't find them. Do you know what?
No, just everything in the Kubernetes folder.
Okay.
You just grep for Kubernetes and Grafana. They look like they're working. Yeah. Okay.
So what happened was there's like the change wasn't a change from this to this. It was a few releases ago we changed, and now we're removing the old one. So it's possible, when we got new mixins, it was already using the new name, which we already had. Or
I see. Yeah. Well, we could probably just update it anyway, just make sure we're on the latest if we're not. Cool. All right.
Great. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Talk to you.
Okay,
Ciao,
bye.
ciao.